Hey guys, it's time for chapter 8 of Woods Runner. Last chapter, we followed Samuel through the woods on a several-day journey, tracking the people who had captured his parents. And finally, he has caught up with them, and he has found the campground that they're staying at tonight, and he wants to think of a plan to save his parents. In the last sentence of chapter 7, it says, "And then just then he settled back to wait and think on some way to get the captives without being discovered." The whole world just blew up. So, how did the world just blow up? Let's find out in chapter 8. The natives began whooping and dancing around the large campfire, firing their muskets into the air in celebration. Samuel crept out slowly until he could partially see what was going on. He started to move back under cover when there was a sudden increase in the racket, and the sound was different. The Indians had been firing in the air as they danced, which caused explosions to go up and away. They were firing smooth-bore muskets, weapons that made a muffled barking sound, but this new sound had the sharper, cracking quality of a higher-velocity rifle. Samuel crept back out to the edge and saw that the shots had come from the north side of the clearing, where another trail came in. 6 or 8 shots. Great clouds of black powder smoke came rolling out of the forest. A pause to reload, and then 8 more shots. The Indians and British soldiers were stunned. A few Indians and 1 soldier went down, probably dead. Several others were wounded and hobbled into the bush for cover. But the Indians and British recovered and returned fire. Samuel was jarred by 2 important facts. First, whoever was attacking, this might end in the rescue of his parents. Second, he should help them. He moved to the clearing near the trail, raised his rifle, cocked it, and without thinking of the enormity of what he was doing, aimed at the nearest British soldier. He was less than 50 yards away. The German silver of Samuel's front sight settled on the red uniform. He set the first trigger and was moving his finger to the hair trigger when he heard a sound behind him. He wheeled his rifle, coming around in time for him to see 2 Indians who had nearly caught him earlier running straight at him. "What?" Half a word. Then 1 Indian, the farther one away, leveled his musket and fired. Samuel felt the ball graze his cheek. Without thinking, his rifle at his hip, he touched the hair trigger and in slow motion felt the rifle buck, saw the small hole appear in the Indian's chest. Then, through a cloud of smoke from his weapon, he watched the Indian fall as he saw the other Indian swinging a tomahawk in a wide arch. He knew he couldn't raise his rifle in time to block the blow. The tomahawk was coming at his head and he tried to duck, but the white-hot pain exploded as the side of the tomahawk smashed into his forehead. And then nothing. Wow. So Samuel was just attacked, and now he's been cut on his forehead by a tomahawk. He's probably dead. But let's see. Now I'm going to read a quick fact sheet about wounds. Untreated battle injuries often led to gangrene, which causes the body to literally rot away, turning first green, then black from infection that travels rapidly. And because antibiotics were unavailable in the 18th century, amputation was the usual treatment. Due to the horrific odor of gangrene, surgeons could smell the patient and make an accurate diagnosis. If the patient was not lucky enough to benefit from amputation, maggots would be introduced into the wound in an attempt to aid healing. They would eat away the infection. Barring the surgical removal of body parts or the use of parasites, doing absolutely nothing and letting the patient die was the only other option at the time. Wow. Wouldn't want to get a scrape in the 18th century. Chapter 9. Strange Dreams. Visions of unreality. Endless screams that started with low grunts and became more and more shrill until they cut his soul. Dreams of his mother, dressed all in buckskins, ladling some kind of thick stew with a wooden spoon into a wooden bowl, chewing tobacco and spitting off to the side while she held the bowl out, shaking her head. He ain't anywhere near right yet. She spit her wad of tobacco juice out again. Brain scrambled to hell and gone. Then a trap door came down, a lid, something thick and dark, and there was no light at all, just blessed darkness and sleep, sleep, sleep. More screams. No sense of time. Once he tried to remember his name and fought with it for a minute, or a day, or a week, or 10 years. He couldn't tell. More dreams, scattered. His mother this time wrapped in a blanket with stringy black hair hanging down at the side of her head while she chewed an obnoxious crud. She disgorged it, slapped it on his head, and tied it on with a filthy rag, spitting more tobacco juice out and nodding. Gotta get the pizen out or she's gonna rot on him. It was as if his eyes never really opened, as if he saw everything through closed lids, and the images that swirled through his mind were so mixed that they became a blur. Night, day, light and darkness seemed to flop and flow over each other. Pictures would stick for a moment, then go. A horse, then a cow, then his mother leaning down, still in the dirty blanket, greasy black hair hanging down the sides of her head, raising the poultice and grinning, spitting more tobacco juice. "Coming clean now," she said. Clear pus, looks clean as spring water, all the yellers gone." And then bouncing, incredibly rough bouncing, as if someone were jumping on a bed while he was trying to sleep. He could pass out in pain, and he would, rolling waves of pain. Finally, a picture stopped, just stopped in front of his eyes, in front of his mind, locked in. It was dark, or night, and he was on some kind of wooden frame lying on the ground. A fire burned nearby, and when he opened his eyes wide, the light from the fire seemed to shove a lance into the middle of his head. He grunted in pain, closed his eyes, and waited for rolling pictures to begin again. When they didn't, he opened his eyes, but only in a slit. The image was the same, a bed frame of some kind, a fire, and this time less pain from the light. As he watched, an arm came out of nowhere and put a piece of wood on the fire, then withdrew. He tried to move his head and see where the arm went, but the pain was so intense he nearly lost consciousness. He lay back and closed his eyes, opened them again when the pain receded. "Where? Who?" The words pealed in his mind like a bell, echoing around inside his head. A figure appeared next to the fire. Not his mother, but a young man with stringy black hair and a cheekful of tobacco juice. He leaned down, his face close to Samuel's. "You in there, righteous, or are you going away again?" I'm here. Who are you?" John Cooper. But most just call me Coop." "Where?" "Long story that. We be about 12 miles from where you got that egg on your head. 12 miles in distance, more'n that in time." "When I don't remember. Some Indians. I think I shot one and then nothing. Why did I shoot it at an Indian?" "Can't tell. We come on these Iroquois and some redcoats. We'd already seen what they took and done back at Miller's Crossing, so we snuck up proper and took 'em on." "I remember. You were shooting. You say we? Where are the others?" "Asleep. I'm the night watch tonight. Plus, I've been doctoring you, and I thought you might lose your light during the night. You've been breathing like an old pump. I guess you was just sucking air hard because you didn't die. Of course, it could still happen. I had a cousin got kicked in the head by a mule. They fractious mules. And he lived for nigh on 2 months 'fore he lost his light. He never talked none except now and again and kind of moaned like somebody stepping on a duck. Then he just up and died. Samuel closed his eyes, felt a spinning. Then, as if a fog were lifted, it all came back. I was tracking Ma and Pa. The redcoats, the Indians, hit our place while I was looking for Bear. They killed most everybody but took my parents and few other captive. Coop nodded. We saw 'em all around the fire, ropes tying 'em together. What happened to them? Coop shrugged. Wasn't much for a fight. We fired once, reloaded, laid out another round, and they ran. Them redcoats had wagons already hooked up, and they piled the captives into the wagon and lit out. We couldn't shoot no more for fear of hitting the captives. The Indians just drifted away like smoke. That would have been that, except one of them put a musket ball in Pa. It was in his gut, awful place that. We knew he was gonna die. Ain't nobody comes back from a belly wound, and kept waiting for it, but he made 4 days. He gave up his light last night. No, night before. Died screaming. It was bad. Surprised it didn't bring you out of your stupor. The screaming kept everybody up all night. Samuel closed his eyes again, trying to put numbers together. Died 1-2 days ago, after making 4 days? If a belly wound took 4 days to kill, and it happened the day of the fight, but Paul died 2 days ago. How long since they took the captives? Since the fight? 5-6 days? You've been out 6 days. We like to not found you when we did. We almost left you. Though, thought you were with the raiders. Me? Why? Well, you wasn't with us, so we thought you was with them. But Carl did some thinking on it. Carl's my brother, and he's the one to think on things. And said, look how messed up your head was where they clubbed you, and look at the bullet hole in the Indian you killed. That's a honey of a little rifle you got, and how could you be with them and still get clubbed and shoot one of them? So we took you with us. I've been out for 6 days, closer to 7, counting the night. And did you say we've come 12 miles? Coop nodded. First 3 days, no 4, we let you lay. Everybody thought you was gonna die, and there wasn't no sense dragging you. Then there was Pa, with his belly wound. If we tried to move him, he would scream like a panther. Then we rigged up a drag and started to pull you back of one of 'em oxen they left behind when they ran. All the bumping. Coop nodded, spit tobacco juice in the fire, and listened to it hiss. We couldn't stay too long and thought you would die, just as well dragging you as you could laying somewhere. If we left you, something would have come along and ate you. So here you are. My head. Coop nodded. Good cut from that hawk. Carl took some deer sinew he had and an old needle he carries for fixing and sewed it up right pert. He said in case you lived wouldn't be much of a scar across your forehead. Coop smiled with some pride, added, It come on to having green pus and everybody knows that's bad, so I made up a spit and bossy poultice and tied it to your head with a piece of rag. Pus cleared up in 2 days. So I've been laying for 6 days? Another nod. Coming on 7. Well, how? With the start, Samuel realized he didn't have any pants on underneath the coarse blanket that covered him. How come I'm not all messed up? We took your pants off. Got 'em messed up? You know what that means. We took your pants off. Got 'em wrapped in a blanket packed with your rifle. Indians must have been in a hurry or he would have took it. A sweet little shooter like that. Also, got your possibles bag and a powder horn. What you feel under your rear is fresh grass. Anytime you missed, we just threw the old grass away and pulled in a half-foot of fresh new grass. As slick as a new calf, or maybe slick as a baby's bottom. Maybe I should put my leggings on. Only if you ain't going out of your head again. I don't think so. Suits me. I was the one having to get the new grass all the time. You ain't it nothing other than a little broth. I got down you one time and some water now and again. Man can go long time without food, no time without he has some water. I'm starving, Samuel said automatically, but with the words came the feeling, and he realized he was as hungry as he'd ever been. You'd ought to drink something soft first. Coop handed him a wooden bowl and with a mixture of broth and meat. Go slow. This is from some salted ox they was cooking when we jumped 'em. Samuel took the bowl. He tried to drink slowly, but as the taste and the smell hit him, he couldn't help gulping at it, meat and all, so fast that he gagged and threw up. Slow, Coop repeated, coming back with a blanket roll and putting it on the ground next to Samuel. You'll flounder, you keep going. You founder, you don't go slow. Samuel started over carefully. There was silence as he ate, chewing completely before swallowing. Small bites, small swallows. It's like fire, he thought, when you're cold. Fire moving through your body. He ate the first bowl, handed it to Coop, and watched him refill it, this time with broth and chunks of glistening fat as well as meat. His second bowl, he drank and ate more slowly than the first. And while he ate, he made the mental list of questions to ask when his stomach was full. Why are you here? How many of you are there? Where are you going? Is there any way you can help me find my mother and father? Are you? Will you? Can you? Do you? Questions roaring through his mind. He finished eating. He lay back. He opened his mouth to ask the first question, and his eyes closed at the same instant, and he was immediately asleep. And the last thing he thought as he went under was that he still hadn't put his pants on. That concludes chapter 9. Here's a quick information sheet on American spirit. Although poorly trained and weakly led and improperly fed, so badly that soldiers sometimes had to eat their shoes, the Americans took comfort from fighting on home soil and usually had much higher morale than the British. While they were often outnumbered and fought with inferior equipment, this spirit had an enormous effect, and they took the phrase, morale is to fighting as 4 is to 1, to heart on the battlefields. Morale is to fighting as 4 is to 1. Pretty cool. And we will read chapter 10 tomorrow. Don't forget to take notes. Bye.